written it, and I will reveal it now. But it was so fun to see Jonathan Frid standing there with his wolf's head cane, and there was Johnny Depp with his wolf's head cane, and Jonathan looked at him and said, "I see you've done the hair." All right, anybody else got a, yes?
When you were making the show 40 years ago, did you have any clue that you'd be here 40 years later still?
No, absolutely not. I don't know, and I am thrilled about that. I think the first moment that I realized that the show had a big fan base and a cult following was one day when we saw fans standing outside the stage door, and we started signing autographs. And then a couple of months later, I was in Africa on a photo safari, and it was 4:30 in the morning, and I was in a Land Rover, and there was another Land Rover that pulled up. We were watching lions, a pride of lions feeding on a wildebeest, and it was so quiet, and it was just dawn, and I heard this voice from the other Land Rover saying, "Mommy, Mommy, there's Maggie Evans." So that was a clue. That was a clue. So the fact that 45 years later, we're talking about this big new feature film, the fact that all 1,225 episodes of the show that we did 45 years ago are now available on DVD, the fact that Dan Herman has done all of these books that are about the mini comic series that have been done about the show, the fact that you can go to these collectibles and memorabilia places and find the lunch boxes and the games and the viewfinders and all of that sort of thing. That's really quite remarkable. When people ask me why I think that's happened, it's because I think Dan Curtis came up with something so innovative in using special effects and so on to tell a story that combines the elements of horror, fantasy, and romance, when most of the soap operas of the day were just, little domestic shows, people knocking knees at a coffee table, talking about, the neighbors. But our show borrowed from great literature, from Melville and certainly they go straight out of my head. We did Picture of Dorian Gray. We did Jane Eyre. We did so many of this great classical literature, and we borrowed liberally. And I think that we had an interesting cast. The idea of all of us playing different roles, going back and forth in time, doing parallel time. These were really innovative concepts. And I think it struck a chord, and I know that a great many filmmakers today, Coppola, Joe Dante, George Lucas, so many of them were teenagers running home from school watching our show, and I think they've used Dark Shadows as a template. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm a big fan of the show. I've been watching since I was a little girl. I'm actually named after Barnabas' little sister Sarah.
Oh.
And one thing that I really liked about the show was the whole concept of parallel time. Will the movie touch on that?
There's no parallel time in the movie. No. And the show, as I said, it's very much a departure, and I think it's very cleverly done. It's an interesting concept, but no, they didn't use any of the sorts of flashbacks and so on that we did.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? What? I answered them all.
I got that more questions. I have to get Laura Parker. You're asking more questions.
Oh, all right. Well, she'll be on, and you can ask her some questions. You have one?
Yes, I was going to ask, did you, seeing this new actress take the role of what you used to do, have you mentored her in any way?
No.
So you left it up to her own interpretation of that character?
Yes, it's her role to bring to it whatever she wants. One thing that I'm very thrilled about is that I had the opportunity to tell Johnny Depp how pleased all of the original actors were about the very generous remarks he made about Jonathan Frid, which we very much appreciate. And also Michelle Pfeiffer was very generous in her comments, and she told Laura and me that she had been watching all of the episodes on DVD in the makeup room. Helena Bonham Carter said something similar. So there's having us in the film is really an homage to the original show, which we all appreciate. And I think that they're going to be very true to, the classic elements of Dark Shadows. And before Laura comes on, as you know, both Laura and I have been writing fiction. And this is my new book. It's called Dark Passages. It's written with a very affectionate nod to Dark Shadows. And in it, which you find out on the very first page, so I'm not giving anything away, is that Meg Harrison, who's a young actress with big dreams of having a career in New York, is a real vampire who is living as a vampire in a world of mortals. And she does become a soap opera star. Anyway, the book has been getting very good reviews. I've had a lot of fun writing it. And those of you who are familiar with all of the nonfiction books that I've written about Dark Shadows, you know what really happened when this small company of actors banded together and created the world of Dark Shadows. So I have written about that. This is my opportunity to have a little fun with what I've written before. And in some cases, perhaps it's given me the license to tell what really happened. So in fiction, you can take some liberties. So this is my imagination of what happened 45 years ago. And it's a lot of fun. So I've got a few copies available that I brought along to Comic-Con. So if you want to get a copy of the book afterward, I've got them here.
Well, while she's taking a break and we're trying to get Laura, because I just talked to her 2 seconds ago or 5 seconds ago, and she's supposed to get on as soon as the... So does anyone ever do Skype here?